So the best way to describe the US markets and culture these days is with this one headline. WWE co-founder Linda McMahon confirmed as Secretary of Education. And if you understand what WWE is, it's professional wrestling. So what do we do as USA? We take a CEO of professional wrestling and make them in charge of education. So another way to put it is, let's throw out all the books and let's replace that with entertaining TV shows with sports that aren't even real, and essentially a bunch of dudes, sweaty dudes that is, fighting. That's our situation in USA.
And that's just a way of trying to divert attention to something that's total okay?
Yes, and he really was swearing there, and he was asked about the Epstein. He's calling it total BS. And why do I bring up the professional wrestling stuff? Because we're talking about TV shows, wrestling, and this was in our markets today. Disney paying $1.6 billion for WWE rights. So I don't know if there's something going on behind the scenes to where the Trump people are like, hey, if you want pressure off, invest in our Secretary of Education's former company, right? Is that what we're doing here? This seems like a really strange move to me. But I guess, in the USA, people are more concerned about entertainment than actual sports, or if you want to call it sports entertainment, you can. This is what it says. Disney's ESPN and TKO Group's World Wrestling Entertainment have reached a more than $1.6 billion agreement that gives the sports media company exclusive rights to many of WWE's most high-profile events. So I guess ESPN is going to show WrestleMania and SummerSlam. Is that what we're talking about here? How do you even take this stuff seriously? But this is actually the news today. And if you don't know, they're going to host a UFC fighting event at the White House. Remember, Trump's building his ballroom. Supposedly now we're talking about Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz. If you guys are into fighting, you can let me know if that's a good fight. I have no idea. Dana White and John Jones feud. So I guess we're fighting over other events and fighting at the White House. I guess we're fighting about who's going to fight at the White House. And further evidence that Trump is mostly interested in making a TV show. He's actually talking more about TV show stuff. Watch this.
Worked, and it hasn't worked really for a long time. And I would say pretty much from the beginning, Colbert has no talent. I mean, I could take anybody here. I could go outside in the beautiful streets and pick up a couple of people that do just as well or better. They get higher ratings than he did. He's got no talent. Fallon has no talent. Kimmel has no talent. They're next. They're going to be going. I hear they're going to be going. I don't know, but I would imagine because they get, Colbert has better ratings than Kimmel or Fallon. You know that. Howard Stern, it's a name I haven't heard. I used to do a show, used to have fun, but I haven't heard that name in a long time. What happened? He got terminated?
Yeah, they're going to separate ways because I think what they're offering salary-wise is real.
All right, so we're talking about all these talk show hosts. We're talking about ratings. We're talking about audiences. This is who Trump is. I want to just make it really clear. He's interested in making a TV show, right? And then his sort of peak, I guess, of his career was The Apprentice in his mind. And so he's always trying to get back to that. The Apprentice for him is, like Michael Jackson's Thriller album, effectively. And he's trying to okay, how can I get back to the glory days of TV show? Well, I get in the White House and then I can make the White House, Apprentice White House edition. And so that's why he's always so concerned about if he's doing better ratings than other people on TV. I know it's sad to talk about this stuff, but this is the reality of it if you want to understand what's going on in the USA. Now we're talking about meeting with Putin, perhaps. Let's watch this.
President Trump reportedly set to meet face-to-face with Russian President Vladimir Putin as early as next week. This comes right off of Steve Witkoff's meeting with Putin. Senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy fills us in on this huge development. Hi, Peter.
And Martha, I see the Chiron, we're citing a report. We can confirm that report. I was just in the West Wing, and I'm told that this is what happened. Earlier today in Moscow, Steve Witkoff was told by Vladimir Putin that Putin wants to meet at some point with Trump. Witkoff then relayed that message to the president, who is open to it, the possibility of a meeting as soon as next week, if the result of that meeting will be an end to the war in Ukraine. We know that President Trump was on a phone call with Volodymyr Zelensky. And
now you have to understand that Putin can easily manipulate Trump. All you got to do is say nice things about Trump's tie, suit, whatever. You can say, hey, Trump, you can build a hotel in Moscow, and then you give Trump something gold. No, seriously. It sounds so stupid, but I mean, if you've watched my prior video, Apple just gave Trump something gold. This Witkoff guy, that's like a personal friend of Trump. He's in real estate also. And then essentially, I think what they're talking about is like, hey, what kind of real estate deals can we possibly make?
Some European leaders, he shared this with all of them. We don't know exactly where in the world it would be. It could be anywhere. Could be at the White House. Could be in a neutral country like Qatar or Switzerland or something, the people that normally host things like this.
I don't think Putin's going to come to the White House. I kind of doubt that. So yeah, Qatar or Switzerland may be candidates. You never know with this stuff. This is also what's going on because you have to understand all this stuff is related. Tulsi Gabbard, headline, Tulsi Gabbard overrides CIA officials' concerns and push to release classified Russia report. This is frankly a security threat from Tulsi, like our national intelligence director person. The problem is if you start releasing too much stuff, you basically could out the identities of several sources and various intelligence gathering operations. You could also expose how we gather intelligence, any number of operating procedures, methods, etc. There's a reason why certain things you don't necessarily want to release, but that's what Gabbard wants to do. And again, Gabbard overrode CIA officials' concerns. Regarding the this connection to whatever Epstein stuff or Russia stuff, you never know what's going on behind the scenes. But even Fox News was a little bit leery about these things. Listen to this.
And I have a statement from Caroline Leavitt, hot off the presses. Haven't seen this anywhere. It says, as President Trump said earlier today on Truth Social, great progress was made during Special Envoy Witkoff's meeting with President Putin. The Russians expressed their desire to meet with President Trump, and the president is open to meeting with both President Putin and President Zelensky. President Trump wants this brutal war to end. And so the emphasis there is on the Russians making this request, but President Trump obviously being open enough to it that there could be a global summit between Putin, Trump, and Zelensky as soon as next week. But there's also a possibility that it slides, and there's also a possibility that it never happened.
That was from Fox News even saying this may never happen. Headlines, Trump and Putin plan meeting on Ukraine as early as next week. We'll see. It is unclear, however, if Putin had offered any concessions to Trump in exchange for face-to-face meeting, which would be a significant win for the Russian leader after weeks of Trump's verbal attacks on him. Who knows? We'll see. And Trump always says that Putin makes, promises and talks really nicely on the phone and they're best buddies and stuff like that. No, he really does say this stuff. It's pretty crazy.
There's a model of the plane right there. So, you got to bring that up, Susie. We have to see that. Look at this. This was just given to me. We ordered brand new B-2 bombers. This is a plane that over a period of 36 hours of constant flying. Look at this. So this is the brand new one they just ordered. Similar, but actually quite different. It's new and enhanced. It's an amazing machine. It went 36 hours. We had 52 tankers.
And Trump probably sits around in his office, watches his Fox News, eats his Kentucky Fried Chicken, and plays with his toy planes. What's happening. He's like, I'm president. I have no doubt that he does these things. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. It's like, hey, bring me my toys. We just talked about before with, say, the Olympics. He needs to be treated like a toddler. You got to give him some sort of thing. Then he, holds up his science stuff like toys. It really is dealing with the toddler, guys. You can't make this stuff up.
Energy. And that's why the gasoline prices are down. The costs are down. I just hope when they watch these shows, I watch this, I won't use names because I just make them better known that nobody knows who they are. But I watch this group of people on CNN and MSDNC too, the same thing, where they say, well, costs have gone up. Costs haven't gone up, they've gone down. I'm telling you, the thing that's gone up is stock prices and success of our country. Our country is really, really doing well, successful. Yes.
Okay, so according to Trump, he just sits around all day and watches TV. Like literally, he's talking about watching CNN, which is pretty crazy. We've heard these reports before. His first term that he just watches TV all the time, and his advisors had a hard time getting him to read anything or go to meetings, and it just becomes obvious that he's obsessed with TV and ratings. He wants to make a TV show. That's who this person is. He claims costs are going down and everything's, great and success is going up is what he claims. Headline, Trump's new tariffs start tomorrow. Here's who's getting hit and by how much. Basically, I'll make it simple. You're going to pay more money for goods coming into the country. And this is going to be any number of things, because you have to think about this. It's not just, like say food coming in or whatever. Oftentimes, many products that are made in the USA use sources, materials, and parts from other places that may be subject to tariffs. So costs could really skyrocket. The percentage I've seen on the tariffs could anywhere be from 17, 18, something like that percent. The Great Depression era, the tariffs were like at 20, so we're pretty near that. Every 100 years, this kind of crazy stuff happens, I guess.
Are you considering taking over the DC police? Is that an option on the table?
We're considering it, yeah, because the crime is ridiculous. I could show you a chart comparing DC to other locations, and you're not going to want to see what it looks like.
So the question was, are you considering taking over the DC police? And he's like, yes. And remember, it was just yesterday he was saying we're going to use the military to keep you all safe at the Olympics, as also we're introducing these weird 15,000 bond things. It's chaos nonstop. What else?
When you get right down to it, the term Wall Street. Yeah, please.
Yep, you made your tax cuts permanent. You mentioned that the tariffs are bringing in a ton of external revenue. You've opened up markets, the EU, Japan, South Korea, many others, to American goods like we've never seen before. How much growth can we expect in the economy now that this model of yours is sort of beginning to really take off?
Well, I think the growth is going to be unprecedented. I think we're going to have growth that's unbelievable. Now, remember, we're building and just starting to build a lot of these incredible plants.
So he says growth is going to be awesome. One thing I noticed was interesting, this particular White House thing, it seemed like there was a lot more Trump-friendly reporters there. Now, I think, and it's hard to keep track, but I think the Wall Street Journal is banned from the White House, I think, and may not have changed. I can't remember what happened with the AP thing, because they were banned, not banned, or whatever. And I mean, honestly, if you watch this stuff, the questions coming in were very obviously pro-Trump. It's kind of like, oh, well, the mainstream media hates you, and, what do you want to say about that? Or, this question is like, hey, you're doing such a great job. Can you tell us about all the growth, right? It wasn't really legitimate questions. And that's something that it doesn't matter who the president is. If you are a serious, journalist or just any sort of, independent / rational thinker, you ask honest, real questions about stuff, not like, precipite it with like, hey, you're so awesome. Tell us how awesome you are. But that's essentially what his sycophant reporters do these days.
Is he hosting some kind of gathering of top advisors this evening to talk about how to respond to the Epstein situation?
I don't know. I could ask you that question. I don't know of it, but I think here's the man right here.
I saw it reported today, and it's completely fake news. We're not meeting to talk about the Epstein situation, and I think the reporter who reported it needs to get better sources.
Look, the whole thing is a hoax. It's put out by the Democrats because we've had the most successful 6 months in the history of our country.
That's when he went on to say that the whole thing is BS. So I read a couple things on this. I think probably there was some sort of meeting, and then when they, was reported that was happening, they decided to cancel it. This stuff happens before. They get called out. So J.D. Vance to meet with top Trump officials to plot Epstein strategy. And then you got VP Vance meeting to discuss Epstein fallout canceled. Okay, what else we got?
A new Gallup poll says that Elon Musk is the most unpopular public figure in the country right now. I'm wondering, do you miss having him around the White House, or is that poll accurate?
I don't know if the poll's accurate. I think he's a good person. I think he had a bad moment, really bad moment. But he's a good person. I believe that.
All right, so Elon's unpopular. Trump thinks he's a good person, and that's where we are. So want to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Again, the best way to understand USA is that you take your education and bring in the professional wrestling to head education. So that's USA. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.